Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson, and this is As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 12th day of August, 2024. Well, I wanted to, let me move this out of the way and find my notes here. Today, first quarter moon starts. It's already started a few minutes ago. Uh, First quarter moon, the moon's still waxing, so magics of increase are still appropriate right now. First quarter moon, though, is about leadership skills. They should be strong with, and sometimes that involves having high expectations of other people. But the one thing that I wanted to relate this to is Wednesday, the 14th, Mars and Jupiter are both at 16 degrees Gemini, and they're less than a degree apart. So very strong interaction between the two planets. There's a conjunction there. Mars is very powerful, very assertive, very motivated, and Jupiter expands everything. And so we're going to have a lot of expansion of that on Wednesday. And they're both going to be in the 10th house of career if you're looking at the chart at 8 a.m. the way I do. And so the forecast I do on the blog over at Stepping Aside is cast, the chart for that is cast, the astrological one and the human design one as well, cast for 8 a.m. in the mornings. And so looking at that, you're looking at, it's in the 10th house of career. So in that respect, self-confidence will be strong, but the idea of linking it to the idea of leadership skills, if you're not already in a leadership position at work, then maybe that could have the potential to grow that day. You could be ready to pursue new opportunities or make significant progress on something you're already doing or bring something to a really positive conclusion. And again, with the first quarter moon impacting as well, there could be, if you're not in a leadership position, maybe the boss notices something that you do, maybe you assert yourself in a way that kind of makes them sit up and take notice. So just saying, Wednesday might be a cool day for that. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. Let me move this back out of the way here. And we'll take the rune from the Elder Futhark bag here to start us out for the above side of things, or the higher self side of things. For the reading, we start with Othala, excuse me, the 24th rune of the Elder Futhark. This is literally Kenaz, or the torch, or higher self, or the light of spirit, focused both inward with the top half of it, which is Ingus, and the bottom half of it, which is Gebo. Both inward, excuse me, and outward. I need some tea. We still have quite a bit of smoke around here. Just when we think some of the fires are starting to get mopped up, then they just get bigger and bigger. So I don't know. We have a lot of wind in the central and eastern side of Oregon, so it doesn't surprise me really. Not a lot of rain, though, although we did have some, and we had a bunch of lightning recently, which probably started a lot of this stuff. So, well, some of it had already started. But anyway, we have Gebo, or I'm sorry, we have Othala here. I'm talking about Gebo as well. This is an earth element rune. It's the last rune of the Elder Futhark. And so you're talking about sacred space. You're talking about, in a sense, similar to the world card in tarot, where you come to the end of something and you come full circle, right? But you're talking about balance and prosperity, security, peace, everything that you've learned along the way. So in a sense, the Akashic record of your life, it can mean ancestral heritage and inheritance, possessions. So it's really kind of a culmination rune. I see it that way anyway, where it's all about the sacred space you've built over the time you're here. But it doesn't have to necessarily be at the end of one's life. And so you can be looking at today, what legacy maybe have I created today or along the way here so far? What do I have to share with other people? What do I have to express to other people in terms of my knowledge and wisdom, or in terms of my just all of the lessons that I've learned thus far? You can think of it that way about yourself. Collectively, where are we as a people? What direction are we going? You could look at it that way. And people, by that I mean maybe you and your family, or you and the greater group of people you have around you. Or you could look at it as a societal thing. Um, I mean, personally, I think that you're in that section of the Elder Futhark where you're looking more at you're looking at runes like Manas, which is the idea of the individual within society. That would be the 20th rune. So you're in that same grouping in the Elder Futhark, where you're looking at your impact on the world, or the world on you, and how all that integrates together, culminating in Othala. And so you could maybe even think of Othala then as the idea of one family. And especially in terms of the collective consciousness as one family, but basically manifesting that into your life here in physical reality. It could be looked at that way as well. I don't think my voice is going to do well today, is it? Let's see. Let's put the the Geomancy runes into order here. And we have, looks like we have a Missio. Now we had on Thursday, didn't we have, did I forget to write all that down? Gosh, I think we had Acquisitio on Thursday. I have all my notes on there for my little post-it note there for the Lionsgate reading that I did, but I didn't put down what it was that I had. But I think it was Acquisitio, and so Emissio would be the other side of that, whereas Acquisitio is about gain or increase, and that could mean any number of things, really. But if you just look at it in terms of the energetic idea of gain or increase, Emissio would be loss or decrease. It'd be the complement of that. Because I've said this before, if you're new to this particular reading, I use Geomancy runes as part of the initial overall significator for the reading, for the below side of things, or the ego side, or the physical form side of things, and then the Elder Futhark is the above side of things, or the higher self or higher consciousness side of things. And so you're looking at a balance. And the interesting part about Geomancy is you have got 8 concepts, but there are 2 runes that talk about each one. And so each one complements the other. They're at the extreme ends, if you will, of that idea. And here with increase and decrease, you've got Emissio, which is decrease or loss. Now, this does not necessarily mean a value judgment of, I lost something and that's awful. I mean, if say you've been having an illness or something, and suddenly you're better. Well, that's the loss of the increase, or the loss of the illness, or the decrease of the illness. You see, so it could be something like that. So don't necessarily attach a value judgment to it. Just think of it as a decrease of something. So, if you have a decrease of maybe an impediment to creating the sacred space, you could look at it that way. Or there could be something that's challenging that today. We could look at it that way, that the idea of your loyalty, tradition, security, balance, prosperity, there could be maybe something that either gets out of the way of that's impacting that. So maybe the loss of ego that could be impacting that in a negative way. Or you could look at it as maybe some challenges to it. But let's take a look at the cards and see if they can define this a little bit further for us. Because I look at the tarot cards as what's happening, right now in our daily lives. What are the details? And that can then provide just a little more description, a little more understanding of what the overall as above, so below energies are here today. And if you're looking at it in terms of the first quarter moon and the idea of leadership, maybe barriers toward that are getting out of the way, and you're in a position now where people are beginning to regard you as that and are looking to you maybe for guidance on something likely in your career, or it could be anywhere really. So I've cut the deck. I've taken, okay, so much for the small details of things. I've got 3 cards from the Major Arcana: Justice, the Magician, and Death. I'm going to leave them in the order in which I drew them. We'll see if we will, initially anyway, we'll see if we do that throughout the whole thing. So there isn't anything from the minor arcana or the court, so there's no detail influence. When you look at the major arcana, you're really looking at soul archetype cards. So in that regard, you're looking at similar energies to the Elder Futhark, where it's all higher self. And overall messages, not just the details of how they play out, but the actual overall message, the higher purpose, the higher message of something. And we have 3 cards. Occasionally this happens. And so anyway, let's go ahead before we get started though. Let's look at the numerology here. So we had 24 for Othala, being the 24th rune. We have 11 for Justice, which generally I don't like, that's also a master number, and I don't like to reduce that to anything, but I'm going to do it here and see what we get. Then we have 1 for the Magician, and then we have 13 for Death. So that comes to 49. 9 and 4 is 13. 1 and 3 is 4. So we're looking again very similar to, although Othala reduces, the 24 reduces to 6, it's still an earth element rune, and earth is a very 4 numerology. Basically, you're looking at structure and foundation. And again, Othala just expresses that outward, and so you're looking at that whole idea of what your foundation is. You're then expressing that information outward. That would be, the foundation would be the top part of Geba with the seed here, with Ingus here. That's the concentrated energy into form, essentially. So there's that concentrated energy that could be considered earthy or maybe fire, but we'll let's see. I think it is earth energy as well. But then you have Gebo, which is it's a water element rune, and it's expressing that emotion or that energy outward. And so I think that with the 4 overall numerology for the reading, and let me just write this down here so I don't forget. And I don't know. I think there's just something about the fundamental structure of your life that may be at the heart of this reading. And again, how you express that in the world with Othala, how you bring everybody into your tribe, how you become part of the tribe or realize that you're part of the tribe. And what tribe is it? Where are you going with it? We've talked about this before, about possibly being on 2 paths now, and the paths are getting very defined. One seems to be service to self, and one seems to be service to others, and which I think is just the fundamental breakdown of where things go in life anyway, what your attitude is about all of that. Do you act with integrity, or are you always an opportunist? Again, you're looking at 2 extremes here, but still, I think it really defines what's going on now in our world. I think it can define even on that would be on the macrocosm, but even on the microcosm of things, just in your own personal life, you can see that type of struggle, that power struggle, if you will. And now I think it's just a matter of the power struggle's over, in a sense, and the decisions of where you're going have already been made. And I think we're just watching that play out now. And even though I think, power struggle issues are still there, I think realistically the lines have been drawn in that particular way. But let's start with Justice first, the 11th card of the Major Arcana. Here we see Lady Justice sitting on a concrete bench, essentially. You can't see for sure if there's a back to it, so to me it just looks like a bench right over here on this one side. She's holding the Sword of Justice in her right hand, straight up towards Spirit. She's holding in her left hand the scales and letting them come to rest or balance. So Justice is really about balanced reason. She sits between 2 poles. Again, another expression of balance. It's a very, even though it's balanced energy, you see the red drape behind her, and she's also wearing a red gown there. But at the same time, It's almost like it's a balance between will, which would be the red, the fire element here, and the will. And if you look right here in the center, the thing that holds the cape on there, the green cape around her shoulders, is a cube, which represents the earth element, and then there is a red dot in the center, which could represent fire, even though the glyph is actually a triangle. But I think that you're looking at maybe the unity, the higher unity that gets created when justice is preserved and manifested. You're also, but you're looking at a balance between the two, being grounded, having your will grounded in justice. And so the behavior that you have, the actions you take, the choices you make, all of that is grounded. That's the motivating fire part of it. Is grounded in some kind of justice here, a higher perspective on that. And again, that's about balanced reason, equilibrium, balance and justice in your decisions. It could indicate legal issues, depending on the reading. But I think overall, when you look at Othala, is how do we express that justice in our lives in a way that respects the greater good, that respects the unity of the situation. Is if you had, say, a group, say you had a business or something where you've got more than one owner, and say you've got 5 owners in a business, and a couple of them decide they're going to do stuff and they don't tell the others about it. Well, that's not a very just thing, and it puts the other owners at risk for some stupid decision the first 2 made, right? There was no consensus. There was no meeting of the minds. There wasn't even any informing, right, of what those 2 are up to, right, that could ultimately impact the business itself and the other owners individually, money-wise, financially. So it puts at risk all of that. And so how do you express justice in your life is part of Othala, really. And is there a loss here of some kind, a decrease of some kind? Is there a challenge to that today? Or is there a barrier that was there before? Maybe your own perceptions were the barrier to this, and now you're beginning to realize, actually, I think I need to be thinking about justice and balanced reason and what's fair and honest and act with integrity instead of acting from the standpoint of just what I want to do. Because it may not be a good thing for other people. There could be fallout, Others could be impacted by all of that, and which isn't fair. It isn't just. You see what I'm getting at here? And then from there, you may begin to manifest things a little bit differently from a higher perspective. Here you have the Magician, card 1 from the Major Arcana. And I've said this before. You have like this triad of experience initially. You have the Fool, which is the soul. That's card 0. In complete unified collective consciousness, still there. The soul is still with that. Takes its leap into form where it either becomes a he or a she, and or something in between, some gender neutral, whatever, that it could be, but it defines itself one way. You get a definition one way or the other. We'll just say it that way. Instead of defining it he or she. We'll just say it defines itself at that point. It's no longer part of the collective consciousness. It's now into its individual expression. Let's say it that way. That's actually probably a more accurate way to say it. You see roses and lilies down on the floor here on the ground, which indicates purity and newness, new opportunities, new manifestation. You see the rose garlands above his head. You also see the lemniscate, which if you turn it on there, you have the 8, which is an as above, so below type of expression. It's almost before the triangles merge to become the Merkaba. Here. Can't see it very well. Maybe that's a better, well, anyway, there you go. That's it right there. But that's essentially triangles merging. It's actually 3, but it looks like 2. And they come together, and pretty soon you have the Star of David, or the Merkaba. And so in that manifestation, the as above, so below manifestation, he's trying to manifest all of the qualities of the major arcana, if you will, or in the case of the Elder Futhark, into our physical awareness when we're in these bodies, right? And we're starting to live our lives and have the experiences that we have. And do we interact with those from the ego level, the below side of things, or do we interact on a higher level, on the soul level of things? You see he has all of his tools here on the table. They also represent the four suits of the tarot, but they represent air, fire, water, and earth. And you see the Ouroboros essentially around the snake around his, acting as a belt around his white gown here, or robe. But the most important thing you see here is his stance. He's got an as above, so below stance, with one hand holding a wand, or it could be a scroll, actually, but some say it's a wand. But if it's the scroll, then it would likely be the tarot, and they think of that as the word of God. So okay, you're interacting, you're drawing down the word of God essentially into physical reality. And this is the point at where it's pointing down into physical reality or form. And so you're manifesting from a higher level or a higher perspective. And again, if it's about, we began with the card of justice. That's the 11th card, and the 11th, the number 11 is a master number for awakening and enlightenment and spirituality, and illumination. And so you're awakening to a higher truth essentially here, and then manifesting that into physical reality. And again, the ego is not, you're seeing a sense of ego loss here with a missio, in that the ego is no longer in control of this, of driving the ship, in other words, of driving the car, of driving the experiences for you. Then we come to the 13th card of the major arcana, and that's the card of death. Now, I want to point over here first. We have two towers, which is similar to the two pillars, okay? So we have a sense of balance there. We have the sun rising between them on a new day. Death is about transformation. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a death in the family or anything like that, or your death. I suppose it could be, but most of the time you're looking at a transformation that's earthly, all right? Just as the magician is pointing down to earth, you also see an inverted pentagram here in the white rose that's on his flag. If you turn it this way, you're going to see the pentagram in its normal presentation, where you have the four elements and spirit here. But here you have that focusing into earth. And so this is really, instead of higher self coming in and interacting this way, it's interacting this way. It's pointing downward into physical reality. You see the priest here giving last rites. The king is dead on the ground. The queen is bereft. There's a child there. Looks like he's got some kind of a horn that he might be blowing. I can't tell for sure. I've never been able to tell, unless, well, this is his crown here, so that wouldn't be part of that. But death is literally riding through the scene, transforming everything for everyone. And you see in the background, you see the river Styx, maybe. Here's the ferryman's boat right there. To transport the soul of the king on into spirit, essentially, and to awaken to a new day. But if you look at this in terms of transformation, you're also looking at change and opportunity. Again, transition, transformation, a rebirth, if you will. So if you liken this again to the idea of the first quarter moon here, and what's going to be happening here on Wednesday with Mars and Jupiter, there could be some transformation going on here that could really be quite profound in your life if you raise your focus to one that's of spirit versus the reactive ego. And I think that's what this is saying. Your entire foundation, with the 4 overall numerology for the reading, your entire foundation could be changed at this point. So there could be some leadership stuff coming, in other words, for you, that, maybe you've just kind of been waiting for. You've known that you've got these qualities, and you've been trying to impress people with them, or, maybe you've been a little low key about it, but then all of a sudden something happens and suddenly your voice is the voice that's being heard and listened to and followed. And so there could be something like that on the horizon here. It's some transformation or transition into a leadership role for you. And again, I wouldn't take I wouldn't focus this way if it weren't for the first quarter moon starting today and then the Mars and Jupiter conjunction on Wednesday. Something could be expanding in your life that changes everything about everything in your life. Maybe you end up with a raise or something, or a new position where you can now maybe buy a house and you couldn't before. That might be one thing that would be very Othala based, increasing your legacy, increasing the inheritance possibilities for your children, something like that. But I think that again, doing things from the standpoint of balanced reason, and being able to see the bigger picture, that I think the card of justice is asking us to do, especially being a master number 11, where you're awakening to a different truth, a different fundamental truth of what's really needed here. And it's not necessarily something that has to do solely with you. There's going to be a fallout or an impact on other people. And so however you do things, it's got to be with a balanced reason. It's got to be something that invokes higher wisdom to the equation. And from that level of higher wisdom with the magician, you're going to manifest that in your life. And then you watch the transformation that happens, with the death card. And again, a fundamental change to the structure of your life or the foundation that you come from. And again, it could have to do with perception. It could all be based there. How you've seen things in the past may be changing, and you see the value of the higher wisdom attitude instead of the ego attitude. Taking the high road, or taking a road or a path that is that you can understand the bigger picture of where you've been and where you're going and how all that impacts everybody else in the process, and that it matters to you, instead of just, I'm going to do what I'm going to do so that I get the advantage or the upper hand today. It's not about that. It's being able to see the bigger picture, and from a soul perspective versus the ego's perspective, So I don't think we need anything else here in the reading. I just think that for the next few days, until we meet again on Thursday, and then who knows what Thursday's reading will be all about. Maybe it will continue this one, or maybe we'll see it take a different turn. But if it does continue this one, then this may be a real important path that opens for you. Again, that is all about, in fact, it may be, because I think, what does the Lion's Gate, doesn't it close on the 12th or something? That's today, the portal. Yeah, through today. Maybe this is just an extension of that, where I think what I said is it's time to express higher power and move past issues that have been problematic and let go of ego-based perceptions. Maybe this is simply the outcome of that, of where you now begin once you do that, and what can happen in your life that's positive, and in the lives of others as well, that's positive from all of this. So perhaps this is an extension of Thursday's Lionsgate reading. I don't know. Kind of feels like that. So we'll see what happens Thursday, see if it builds on this one, or, when we meet again for another reading, see if it builds on all of this that likely began last Thursday when the Lion's Gate was at its peak. That portal of spiritual energy coming through was at its peak. Now this may be giving us the direction here, the overall direction of what that's going to take. Again, manifesting from the standpoint of justice and seeing how that transforms your life in a way that is profound and impactful, not just to you, but to others as well. So anyhow, that's it. Nothing big, except that it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Everything went up on the blog. Let's see, what did I did? I changed from the Exploring Tarot series to Herbal Magic, and which one did I do? I can't remember now which one I did. I know I'm going to do bay leaf here coming up for the following week. Maybe it was no, I think I started with agrimony, and then did I start with agrimony? Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, just check that out and see which one it is. I work ahead a week, and so my head's already into next week, and I sort of tune out what I did the week before. Anyway, the forecast is up. The Herbal Magic post is up. The astrological overview is up, and the correspondences for Work and Magic for the week, they're also up. Over on the blog at Stepping Aside, the web address is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video and a little window will open up. It's right there at the top. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom, that's where I am on social media and on the other platforms that I write on, which are Medium, Substack, and Patreon. You can get those links there. Click subscribe here if you haven't. I would love you to do that. And again, come back on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.